You all right?
Oh, I'm so good.
So you ran the 4 feet up to the tower, huh?
It's at least...
Or is this just from walking up the stairs?
It's at least 150 feet.
Yeah.
The stairs didn't help.
Yeah.
Did you see the legendary foot race?
Oh, I saw you guys taking a leisurely walk up to the tower.
Did you see how...
I figured it was because the weather was so nice.
Did you see how I dominated Fancy Dan in that foot race?
Yeah? You guys been practicing at the mall? Mall walking?
I don't think you're giving this moment enough... Not respect. Basically, when an event is sacred, precious,
This event is sacred.
it's set apart.
When two dudes run together.
So,
A sacred moment.
while you pour this whiskey, blah, 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 neat pours, nose, palate. I'll tell you the real news of the day. So
Okay.
I'm walking up here with Fancy Dan.
Okay, but this is a gift from magnificent bastard Mike Carr.
Mike Carr.
I'll let you take a breath.
Mike Carr, you magnificent!
Bastard!
Did that wind you?
No, it's just it didn't help. Okay. So I'm walking up here with the Fancy Dan. Why you keep distracting from my story?
I don't think that's
I keep getting like 5 seconds in.
Okay.
You just gotta make it about whatever you're doing.
About whiskey? You gotta keep
Where do
making
you
it about
think you
whiskey.
are, Daniel?
What is this bullshit?
Where do you think you are? So I'm walking up to the vault with Fancy Dan. He sets up like the mics and the cameras and whatnot. And, he's side by side. I'll give him a little stutter step. Right? He steps a little quicker too. And within about 2 seconds, we're in an all-out foot race. This is a sprint.
I think from what I heard from a distance was, we're doing this, Rex. I think that was a direct quote.
Oh yeah. No, like we both know there's a moment. We both take off running, and Dan says, "Oh, we're doing this." And I didn't need to reply, not because I couldn't breathe, but because I am less a man of words and more of a man of action.
Oh, is that what's happening here? Okay.
So the fact that Dan's editing this,
Yeah.
it's a little
That's going to be disconcerting.
well, but if he lets the truth come through,
Oh, okay.
then here's what actually happened.
We don't have a corkscrew in here, so I'll be right back.
Here's what actually happened. Get out of here.
right.
They don't need you here for this.
Yeah. It's between you and Dan.
Just leave the door open, that's fine.
It's open.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, what Dan can tell you on the screen, because he's a truthful lad, is that he did not win. But here's what I'm going to tell you. Even though Dan didn't win, and the fact that I am still recovering fully 5 minutes later, by the time we got to the top of the stairs, Dan was barely winded. He was just, walking around fairly casually. And I'm trying not to look as winded as I really am. It's the whole thing where you need to breathe really heavily, but you're holding it back. So for people from a distance, it looks like, oh, you're just kind of doing the thing. But inside, you're going. So, Dan did not beat me in the race. He recovered more quickly.
But he beat you at life.
He recovered more quickly, and this is what I attribute it to. Dan knows this.
Youth?
Dan is like 3/4 torso and up. And his legs are about that tall.
Huh.
So I was paying attention, because I'm a master racer. I was paying attention to our stride, the pacing, and he was taking about 4 steps for every one I was taking. I think if he had actual adult-sized legs, he could have beaten me. But he just had to output 4 times as much energy
Yeah, that makes sense.
with his short legs.
Makes sense.
Hi.
Hey, so this is Bowmore.
Yeah.
Independent bottle
Yeah.
from 80 Rattray. This is from early days when they were first starting to release. This came out.
Wait, you said 80? What is Dewar?
80 Rattray.
Was
Dewar
Dewar-
Rattray.
Dewar.
His middle name, Dewar.
Okay.
Yeah. Alfred Dewar. And so this was actually bottled in 2006.
Okay.
So this bottle was released 14 years ago.
Yeah.
And
Well, hold on.
going on 15 years ago.
So it's a 14-year-old whiskey that was released 14 years ago.
Yeah. So it was actually distilled in 1991.
So it had 14 years in a barrel and then 14 years in a bottle.
Yeah.
Doesn't do anything once it's in a bottle.
No,
really.
no. But they found this somewhere dusty. Mike Carr found this in a shop somewhere covered in dust.
Yeah.
And he got it for us.
Well, I'm going to be honest.
I like Bowmore.
I'm sure that's a nice nose.
You can't smell anything?
The last thing in the world you want after a foot race is a neat,
whiskey.
Is a neat pour of whiskey.
Yeah. Here's your reward. Actually, right now I'm getting a whole lot. I mean, obviously sherry, but I'm getting a lot of plum, like dark plum notes.
What's this all over?
It's all the fuzz from your eagle head. I used it to dry off the gravy.
There's definitely a phenolic note that shows up.
Yeah, there is a slight sulfur, and I'm attributing that to the sherry cask.
There's got to be, what's the smoky element in here?
There is smoke. I mean, it's Bowmore. It's an Isle of Scotch,
Right,
right?
like-
but it's low comparatively.
But yeah, compared to like the big heavy islas of the
Yeah.
Isla and the Lefroy Ardbeg and what have you. But specifically, what is this smoke? What kind of a peaty presentation? Are you getting more earthiness? Are you getting more of like a savory? More
I'm getting the peat as background, like this light, thin layer of smoke, because the dominant note of sulfur and funk from me is coming, I think, from the sherry casks,
Okay.
because it's a sweet funkiness, musty note.
Cork.
We're gonna have to drain that cork, put it back in.
And then it's got,
That's so sweet.
wait, hold on. You're doubling down on the sweet?
Yeah.
I'm doubling down on, I think I'm getting a much more heavier impact of the peat than you are.
I don't think it's peat.
The
'Cause-
smoky element, you think that's just funk? I don't know.
I think it's sherry funk, and then there's a cloud of white smoke around it, like the way your clothes smell after
See,
camping.
I get the little bit of like the sulfur quality,
Mm-hmm.
but for me that smokiness is kind of a cross between like it's like a coastal forest fire in the distance type of smoke.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. I feel like it's like day old smoke on your clothes,
Okay,
right? Mixed with sea air funk. But I
And-
think the sea air
Right.
is coming from the sherry barrel.
you're attributing that to the sherry barrel.
Yeah.
I think sherry barrel. I'm thinking towards like just dark fruitiness.
yeah, but
I'm not. This is more
typically, yes.
of a saltier, brinier, smoky peatiness that I would attribute that to.
I agree until you got to the word peat. I agree with salt and brine. But I think what's happening is the light level of smoke is drawing out the phenolic notes that existed in the sherry barrel. Because if you go straight to a sherry, just sip on a sherry,
Sure.
it has that sulfury phenolic aftertaste funk to it. It's not just sweet.
Do we
Until
know-
you get to the Pedros, right?
Do we know how long this was in a sherry barrel?
Well, 14 years. If it's its whole life in a
It
sherry
wasn't
barrel.
finished. It was like actually aged.
I think so, but I don't actually know. It says cask type sherry. I'm assuming they just dumped one sherry barrel.
So that's gonna be plenty of time to get a big old sherry impact.
Yeah.
But
Now,
it's nice.
this
Now the finish for
is
me,
the 12.
The reason why I can't say, wow, this is really sweet, because the finish for me actually leaves kind of a dry layer,
Yeah.
not necessarily sweet layer.
So I want to compare it to the classic Bowmore 12, because the Bowmore 12 in my memory is far more vanilla,
Okay.
right? And less sherry funk. And then that same salt, brine, musty note.
Definitely different. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it also has that same slight sulfur
I'm
accent.
getting on the nose comparatively. The Bowmore 12 is giving you a little bit more of like a American whiskey farm grain granola.
Yeah. And that vanilla barrel accent. I think it's more
Yeah.
bourbon barrel.
Yeah,
Than sherry in that.
This the Bowmore 12 compared to, again, it's the AB. It's going to give
Yeah.
you very different reference points. This strikes me much closer to like an American whiskey type of nose with that granola, that farm dusty kind of a little bit of vanilla in there.
I really love how sherry funk this 14 is.
This is a Bowmore 40% ABV.
This is
a little-
59.
Yeah, it's more lively for sure. 59%. So that's definitely a dramatic proof difference.
Yeah.
It's about as low as you can get with about as high as you can get.
Add a little bit of
Between the
water
two,
to the...
I don't know if it's really a super fair comparison because the proof is so different.
Right.
But I think just based on the bottles, that the way they are now, I like the 14-year-old sherry thing as well.
Yeah, me too.
Compared to this. But the Bowmore 12 is nice. It's not one of my...
Oh, whoa.
On the sherry?
Yeah, I got way more
there's
tannic and funk and musty.
See, on the nose, after you put it in the water, I got more of the dark fruits.
Yeah. Take a sip. It gets really like sharp and phenolic.
See, the dried, rich, fruity character really comes out for me on the 14. To me, this tamped down the smoke and it ramped up the fruitiness.
Well, okay,
It sounds like your experience before the water is closer to the experience I'm having now. Your experience after the water is closer to the experience I was having before.
No, I agree it tamped down the smoke, but I'm attributing all of the super sulfur must to the fruit notes because I'm thinking that's where the sherry is.
Super nice though. I like, actually, out of all of these, the 14 with a little bit of water.
Yeah, me too.
That's my favorite.
Me too.
It's got more drama, more richness and density to those flavors. Dakota Davis, anyone here ever use a whiskey marinade for steaks or chops? If so, what did y'all use and how did it taste? So Daniel, you
Well,
and I,
we
fresh off the heels
just
of,
recently experienced a...
does it still smell like? A little bit. We wild turkey to turkey.
Yeah.
So we basically,
Sous vide?
you put a turkey in a sous vide bag and have it completely immersed, completely swimming in wild turkey. And then you cook that for almost a full day. And then you eat it.
Oh, it is so bad.
It's not as bad as it could have been.
Well, if you had added other random shit into it.
Why would I do that? This was science. I just wanted to see the impact of a wild turkey with a turkey.
But plenty of people have marinated things.
Oh, yeah.
So I'd say
Bourbon marinades are very, very popular.
give some recommendations. You know, who'd be good at this is Chrissy Martin,
Okay.
who does a little dab of bourbon. She does a whole lot of cooking and a whole lot of cooking with whiskey. So go find Chrissy Martin on Instagram or something and ask her for recipes.
Heidelcraft, can you magnificent bastards help me out and define smoothness? I recall it being discussed as either a bad metric or used incorrectly. So,
We've said this before, but
Yeah.
this is something I think bears repeating periodically.
sure.
Smooth typically refers to mouthfeel in my experience.
Yeah.
Not bitey, kind of buttery.
I think most people are attributing it to whether or not a whiskey is too burny or bitey or stingy,
or sharp.
or if it doesn't hurt them. And,
Right.
and a lot of people, whenever they're drinking a whiskey
neat.
neat, then the main thing that they're looking for is whether or not it's smooth.
Yeah, does it go down easy?
Unless you're kind of a few steps into the whiskey scene, the only thing that you know of is a quote-unquote good criteria, a good qualitative measurement of whether or not a whiskey is a good whiskey is whether or not it's smooth.
Yeah.
And there's this idea like, well, if it hurts you, it's not good quality. There's also some, relatedly, there's also some myths out there about, well, good whiskey won't give you a hangover.
Yeah, that's bullshit.
Let me say, I've had very nice whiskeys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So here's the thing.
Yeah.
I actually would like to tie this to what I think is the science of tasting.
Okay.
Because I would argue that the people whose first instinct is
Right.
bite bad, no bite good,
Right.
are actually closer to the lizard brain part of the reaction you should have with alcohol.
Sure.
Right? Because technically what happens with alcohol is it activates pain receptors in your tongue.
Right.
And that's why people who never drink alcohol at all,
Right.
their interaction with even the mildest wine proof is like, oh, it burns, oh, it burns. How could you drink that, right? Well, what's happening there is your brain, it's the same thing as bitterness.
Trying to save your life.
Yeah, your brain's going, what the fuck are you doing? This thing's trying to kill you, you idiot,
Right.
right? And you're like, no, I can quit anytime. And but that's what's happening, right? Your brain is attempting to warn you that this is not good for you and it's probably going to kill you,
Right.
right? Now, that's not necessarily true. That's just evolution of lizard brain trying to warn you on bitter tastes and things like this. So you have to tell your brain, no, it's fine, over and over and over and over and over until your brain finally stops doing that. So I'd argue the people who are arguing with smooth as a positive metric are actually closer to the original lizard brain reaction to alcohol in your palate.
That said, on the other end of the spectrum, the people that are deep into whiskey, and they are trying to pick apart specific notes and flavors and the journey of the whiskey from the nose to the palate to how it finishes.
Right.
For a lot of those people, they start to get kind of annoyed whenever they're around people drinking whiskey, and the only thing they're going to say is, "Oh, smooth." And very quickly, you realize a lot of people that are saying this that don't have experience, they will say that for basically anything if they think I need to appreciate the whiskey. How do I appreciate this whiskey verbally?
This
I'm going
is
to say
someone trying.
Just
trying to participate.
I'm going to say it's smooth. And I have no problem with that. Like, if that's the reference point that they have, and they're trying to engage and participate, and
at least they're trying to participate.
Yeah, it's great. It's fine. I would really like to do an episode or two on the Tribe channel talking about exploring the smooth idea. And then specifically, according to whiskey lovers, first, let's define what smooth means to you. Second, let's go through and put together a list of what you would consider the quote-unquote smoothest whiskeys out there.
And then see if we can add any other taste metrics onto the back of that smooth.
I think it'd be fun.
Like, start with smooth and go where?
Sure.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Oftentimes we'll use the words like round or soft.
Yeah.
That's basically just another way of saying there's no pointy edges, because the moment, it's kind of a loaded word. The moment you say smooth, and people are like, that's not a real descriptor.
Everyone stops listening.
But nobody's really butthurt about round or soft, and if we don't want to start a conversation down that path, we just use words like round or soft. Here's the Fighting Steeler, drink it.
If you fight, did you actually say the whole drinking word? It's like,
Here's the Fighting Steeler, drink.
Yeah. If you fight with something,
Here's the
it's similar.
Hey!
I didn't tell you.
Wait, he works for us.
Yeah, but this was before we hired him.
So,
It's John Console,
it's a bottle.
otherwise known as Mr. Wiskowski, who's also
A bottle lord. Well, we'll see. It depends on your quarterly review, John.